Hello, good evening to you. Warm welcome to Business Live. Coming up, International Monetary Fund set to revise Ghana's economic growth upward after the country successfully passed a third review under the fund program.
The policies and the reforms that have been implemented since the beginning of the program have continued to pay off. Economic growth in the first half of 2024 has been much higher than anticipated. And indeed, we will revise our growth projections for this year, once again, I should say.
Also in this bulletin, Virgin Atlantic cites Ghana's economic recovery and favorable outlook as a major reason for its return.
And looking at how Ghanaian economy is developing, the inbound tourism, the very high share of very young population in Ghana, or 57% of being under 25, is a massive growth opportunity, and we're excited.
Also in this bulletin, Ghana revises legal and regulatory framework for the oil and gas sector in a bid to attract fresh investments.
Petroleum sector, despite recent challenges, remains hugely attractive with endless opportunities for prospective investors.
Details of these and more for you. Please stay. I truly appreciate your time with me, Pius Kojo Baka. And look now at our stories. The International Monetary Fund says it will revise Ghana's economic growth up after the country successfully passed its third review under the fund program. IMF Mission Chief to Ghana, Stefan Rode, at a press conference today said Ghana's performance under the fund program has been satisfactory. More in this report.
According to the fund, all end June 2024 quantitative targets were met and progress on key structural reforms has continued notwithstanding delays in a few areas. Speaking at the press conference, Stefan Rode said the authorities' policy and reform efforts under the program have continued to deliver encouraging results.
First, our assessment is that performance with respect to the program's targets and objectives has been generally satisfactory. More specifically, all the end June 2024 quantitative targets were met, and progress on key structural reforms has been has continued despite delays in a few areas. At the same time, it is clear that the policies and the reforms that have been implemented since the beginning of the program have continued to pay off. Economic growth in the first half of 2024 has been much higher than anticipated. And indeed, we will revise our growth projections for this year, once again, I should say. Inflation has continued to decline. Fiscal adjustment is on track to meet the end-year fiscal targets.
Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam said government is working to enhance the energy sector sustainability and transparency, as well as policy and reforms to strengthen revenue collections and expenditure controls in the run-up to the December elections.
We are promoting competitive procurement so that all investors that want to invest in solar will have a level playing field to compete. This is a departure from the past where we had procurement through uncompetitive processes. Now we promoting competitive procurement, which is also good for us because we can get competitive pricing for solar energy.
On this spot, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, said the bank is committed to maintaining a tight monetary policy stance to support a continued decline in inflation.
The bank will continue to monitor these developments and maintain the necessary monetary policy stance to ensure that inflation stays within the target over the medium term. Let me note that it is not unusual to see intermittent upticks in inflation.
The International Monetary Fund said Ghana is on track to achieve a primary surplus on a commitment basis of 0.5% of GDP, despite emerging spending pressures from the recent drought in the northern regions and difficulties in the energy sector. James Eshen's report for Joy Business.
And I want to bring in the economist, Professor Patrick Issu, joins us via Zoom for some conversation on the back of this. Thanks so much, sir, and good to see you on Business Live. Yesterday, we had a great conversation about the conclusion of the Eurobond debt restructuring. Now, we are learning that Ghana has passed the third review program. Does it come to you again as a surprise?
Good evening and good evening to viewers. It's not a surprise at all. Indeed, yesterday I did indicate that you get a sense that the announcement that we got is probably tied to the IMF coming to town for the third review. So you got a sense, based on the information we've seen, based on the indicators that we've seen, it's not a surprise that there will be a staff level agreement and that we would have met all the quantitative targets. All right. I think that seemed like it was a matter of course.
Okay, so it is coming again. Just after yesterday, we heard about the conclusion of the Eurobond debt. I just want you to help me understand what will all of these mean to the economy.
So I think, so in the immediate term, what this means is that we are just one step away from concluding the third review, and so it's now available to go to the IMF board, yeah. And once it's approved, then the next 300 million or so will be released. And of course, in terms of what we said we would do in the program, we are making that progress. But I think the long term, though, is where we are not seeing much happening. I think in terms of improvement in real living conditions of Ghanaians. So I think what we have to understand is that the IMF will focus on the macro indicators. Now, sometimes those improvements do not necessarily translate into real improvement in the business conditions as well as households' living conditions.
All things being equal, when should we expect this 360 million hit our accounts? Yes, you said we are a step away from that.
I'm not sure when the next board meeting will be. You get a sense that by the end of November, that should happen.
Oh, okay. Any critical areas you believe when channeled to, when I say channeled to, I mean the funds, will yield the desired results, do you think?
Well, this is primarily going to be budgetary support. So I think they've already been projected and planned for, that we are going to use it to support the budget. I think if we are going to identify specific sectors, I think we all know food production remains a big problem, and related infrastructure. We've already seen this week that food inflation has led to a rise in inflation again. So I think the problem with food production continues to persist, and it's some area that we need to pay particular attention to.
All right, so it brings to the next question, what we've been able to, have by way of impact in relation to the previous disbursements that were made. How would you say we've fared?
I think when it is budgetary support, it's very difficult to pinpoint what it has done, because it means it's not project specific. We don't say we are committing the funds for A or B, so you'll be able to tell what it's done. It means it's just coming to support the pool, and it's going to help to plug a hole in our budget. Don't forget that previously we would have gone to do a Eurobond to plug that hole. But now, when we are committing these funds to budgetary support, it means what government plans to spend on, we are just going to use it to support. So the one area that is supposed to have an impact is especially with the reserves as well as the currency. But I mean, these amounts are so small, even relative to our trade surplus. I mean, our trade surplus is up to the year to August is almost 2.9, about 2.8 billion. And so when you are receiving only 360, I don't think it has much impact, except that it just gives the idea that we are sticking to a long-term plan. And, investors might believe that we are doing something that will ultimately reform the economy.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Patrick Issu. We'll leave the conversation here and, of course, give you more updates in our subsequent bulletins and have you on to comment on that. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on Business Live. Away from that, British carrier Virgin Atlantic has cited Ghana's economic recovery and favorable outlook as a major reason for returning to daily flights to Accra. The airline last month announced resumption of scheduled flights to Accra from May 1, 2025, after halting its services in September 2013. Speaking to Joy Business in Accra, Chief Commercial Officer of Virgin Atlantic, Johar Javani, the carrier said the current environment will offer some good returns on our operations.
I mean, one, of course, is the Ghanaian economy and how that has developed over time. When it comes to the operation itself, we have a next-generation aircraft. We have renewed our fleet, which is considerably younger and more efficient. And also now when we have grown our fleet, we have an opportunity to utilize our incoming new aircrafts and the portfolio to start flying to Accra. And I think inbound tourism is probably the best number to give. If the growth rate over the previous year into Ghana has grown by 50% when it comes to inbound tourism. It's one concrete example of how quickly the Ghanaian opportunity has improved. And for us, we continue developing not only in the UK but also in the US, how to make sure that more people will travel with Virgin Atlantic and with our partners Delta into Accra. And that's why we feel it's the right time.
Again, you raised concerns about the cost of fuel as well. And if I write again, just to refer back to that release that you put out as well, has it also improved now that you won't come again? And the concern for a lot of Ghanaians now is that whether Virgin Atlantic wouldn't come in again, and the next thing we'll see, there's another press release from Virgin Atlantic that, listen, based on XYZ, we're going back.
No, we believe that the route deserves competition. Currently, there's only one airline flying the route. We believe it's the right time to re-enter. I was in Nigeria yesterday. We operated that for 23 years. We believe that there's a future for us in Ghana, and we believe that starting in May 2025 is the right time.
Let's look at the time slots and whether it's a concern, because there were some people who thought that for those who were flying from Accra to London, the time slot wasn't good. Is there any possible review of the time slots when you start in May, or you're still going to stick with your old time slots that you used to work previously when you were flying from London, Accra, London?
We're going to have a very attractive schedule. We're going to leave Accra in the morning at 9:15. So I believe it's later than we used to operate previously. So it has a very good schedule for the local traffic. And equally so, it connects perfectly to our services to New York in the evening. We believe roughly 90% of the passengers on the route will be to London, and then the remaining 10% connecting to New York. What has also changed since the last time that we are in a very close cooperation with Delta. Delta flies to Accra non-stop, so the passengers can combine the Virgin Atlantic flights via London to the Delta services directly to Accra. So there's much more combinability options, plus the schedule is better than we had before. So 9:15 a.m. departure, you avoid the rush hour traffic here in Accra, and then you arrive very early in the morning into Accra from London, leaving London in the evening around 10 p.m. We feel it's a good schedule.
Let's talk about pricing, because even though Ghanaians love to travel, they are sometimes worried about the price on that route. And they feel that when can we get another carrier coming on board to offer us quite flexible, quite competitive pricing to connect to London? What are you bringing on board when it comes to the issue about pricing?
Well, we're competitive priced. We need to be competitive every single day for the consumers. Obviously, prices evolve every day, so no prices are fixed. They vary every single day, but we need to be competitive and we need to fight for every single customer.
But
competition in general brings usually what happens with competition is that the prices become lower because competition drives pricing.
Away from the aviation industry, let's now talk oil and gas, because Ghana has revised its legal and regulatory framework for the oil and gas sector in a bid to attract fresh investments into the exploration and production activities. At the opening of the 2024 Local Content Conference and Exhibition, Minister of State at the Energy Ministry, Herbert Krapah, emphasized the country's stable regulatory regime, which continues to draw global interest in Ghana's oil fields. The conference highlights new pathways for local content growth in the sector.
The country's stable regulatory regime has also sustained interest in Ghana as more and more companies kept visiting the Petroleum Commission's data room with renewed confidence to do business with Ghana. Krapah said at the official opening of the 2024 Local Content Conference and Exhibition on the theme Attracting Exploration and Production Investment to Boost Local Content, New Pathways.
Our upstream petroleum sector, despite recent challenges, remains hugely attractive with endless opportunities for prospective investors. Recent discoveries have largely de-risked the deep water geology of Ghana. Our stable regulatory regime has sustained interest in our country, and we are seeing more and more companies visiting PC's data room with renewed confidence to do business with us.
The minister said the regulatory regime guarantees.
This is still Business Live. We have more stories for you after this break. Welcome back to Business Live. Now, the Chartered Institute of Bankers Ghana is celebrating its 2024 Bankers Week, which starts tomorrow with a health walk and screening. The theme for this year's celebration is resilience in the financial system, managing horizon risk. The Institute mission over the years has been to fully develop the academic and professional potential of practitioners in the financial services sector. Joining me now is Robert Jato, the Chief Executive Officer of the Chartered Institute of Bankers Ghana. Thanks so much, Robert, and good to see you. It's been a while. Now, first off, for the purposes of education, tell us what the Chartered Institute of Bankers really do. Unmute for me, Robert. Robert, kindly unmute for me. So, Robert, I'm asking you to briefly tell us, for the purposes of education, when we say Chartered Institute of Bankers, who really are they?
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Robert? Pretty soon we shall connect to Robert Jato for some more on this very development they are about holding, which of course has to do with their health walk tomorrow as part of the Bankers Week celebration. We shall rectify Robert's line and bring him on to speak to us on that. But let's take this story. Now, day 2 of the Republic Bank Love FM Habitat Fair is underway at the Kumasi City Mall with exhibitors offering great deals and exciting discounts to prospective homeowners. Some exhibitors are offering up to 50% discounts on their products. Emmanuel Bright-Keku has more.
Still a lot of items here on display at the Kumasi City Mall, where Love FM Republic Bank Habitat Fair is happening, and I am currently here. I want to know the name, process and plant automation. For once, I was thinking, is it just plants that you guys are providing, or what is it about?
Okay, we are not providing plants. Okay. So process and plant automation is an engineering firm that's been in the existence for over 20 years, fully Ghanaian-owned company. And in the building industry, some of the solutions that we offer are solar PV installations, smart home systems, energy monitoring and management systems, building management systems. We also do supply of electrical products. So if you need any electrical product for your building, be it cables, distribution panels, switches, sockets, everything electrical, we are there. Now with our smart home systems, we give you the luxury to control your things in your home. So your TV, your lights, your air conditions, all of that, you can do it via the traditional way and also with your phone and voice commands. I set it the lights come on. If I'm going to sleep, I set it sleep mode.
Wow.
And
this is interesting. Yeah. So.
Thanks so much for watching Business Life with me, Pius Kojo-Baka. We have more stories for you when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Beyond the Numbers is next.